Hey everyone, welcome to another episode at the Warehouse Underground podcast. This is episode number 12. I'm Ben, the host of the show, and I got two really cool guests for the show today. They're both from the new startup company called Perseuss. It's Thomas David Yee, who is the founder, and Dibyesh Giri, who is the VP of Business Growth and Customer Success. Now, if you are in the warehouse and distribution center space, if you follow it on LinkedIn, if you go to the trade shows, there is a high chance that you have seen these two out there. They are really hustling hard to promote their new company, which is helping organizations reduce their shipping costs and optimize their packing solutions. Now, from a 10,000 foot view, in warehousing, you may think this is not that complicated. Why do I need all these solutions? But for the operators that are out there, the people that are in the know, you know how complex and complicated and layered packing and shipping can be. So I'm really happy that there are new solutions that are really coming online and growing out there in the industry that can really help operators in this area. So excited to bring these two guys on the show. I think you're really going to enjoy it. A lot of cool topics for today. And with that, I'll bring them on to the stage. Tomas, Dibyesh, welcome to the
Hey,
Warehouse Underground, guys. How are you?
hey, I'm good. Ben, it's been a while. I've been watching your podcast, and finally, I'm in your podcast. So it's amazing to be here talking about the cartoonization.
Yeah.
Look forward.
Yeah. Yeah, so I said this in the intro, and I mean it. Like, you guys are grinding hard, and I respect that. I mean, you were really starting to make a name for yourself, and you're getting visibility from guys like me and other people that are out there in the industry. So, good on you, and I'm really happy and proud and really honored to have you on the show. So thanks again.
The, the honor is ours. Thanks for having
Yeah.
us. Yeah,
Right. So let me get into this a little bit. So before we get into the nuts and bolts about Perseus and all the value that it's bringing and how it operates, both of you guys have a little bit of a unique background, like a very cool story. Can you just talk to us about kind of where you came from, how you came to be, and what Perseus is all about?
Um, okay, I'll start. I'll try to be very short because it could be a long story. But yeah, long story short, born and raised in Europe, in Czech Republic, studied theoretical mathematics, then got hired by Amazon, worked at Amazon for almost 5 years, 2.5 years in Europe, 2.5 years in Seattle, and I worked in the supply chain technology space. And yeah, wrote a lot of cool software for Amazon's warehouses and Amazon's logistics operations. And yeah, after a while, I was like, it's so interesting. Amazon is already so sophisticated, and yet there is so much room for improvement. And I was like,
Yeah.
there has to be even more room for improvement
Shocking.
outside Amazon.
How dare
And
you?
yeah, no, it's so interesting. So yeah, after almost 5 years, I left to pursue this vision of, okay, how can I help and bring cutting edge tech to warehouses that are not Amazon owned, right? How can I bring the top level tech to the small guys? And yeah, and so I did a little consulting here and there at the beginning, and then very quickly I zoomed in on the cartonization problem of like
Yep.
putting items in boxes, boxes on pallets, pallets in trucks or whatever, in a way that's cost efficient, right? And obviously, I'm not the first guy in the world who thought, oh, I can use math to pack boxes, but as you said in your intro, the ecosystem is very layered, and there's a lot of nuance, and like
Yep.
there's a lot of stuff that's like changing all the way. So we'll dive deeper into it later, but there's a lot of very interesting things and a lot of hard things that you kind of need to do to like have your cartonization solution be really price optimal, and I think that's where we're really shining, and it's been absolute pleasure, and it's a hustle, as you said, but
Yeah.
we're finally like getting some really really good traction. And I met Dibyesh like 2 years ago in Seattle, and then around, I'll let Dibyesh talk about his background, but yeah, you joined Perseuss like 9 months ago, and it's been like bringing him along was definitely, I think, the best decision of 2024. So it's yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
All right. Talking about me, I'm from Nepal, South Asia, from the Kathmandu. I moved to Seattle almost 4 years back. I joined one startup company called Fleet Panda. We were into a fuel distribution things. There I worked. I had an experience working with them from 0 to almost 2 million ARR. So I had a good experience working, scaling up those startup. And I took a little bit break, and Thomas, I knew him from a common friend, and he was doing. I've been following him in LinkedIn, and he was doing cool stuff. And I said, "Hey, looks like you're doing a cool thing. Can I join you?" And he said, "Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like." He told like, "Okay, there's a lot of hustle going on. Uh, Come on, like let's do it together." And that's how I joined there. And it's the first time, right? I was looking into a broader perspective, the warehouse thing. Then I realized there's so much of problem that we can solve, and the problem that we're solving is so cool.
Yeah.
We're helping warehouse to optimize their cost, and we also, in a way, helping environment to, sustain. Right? We helping to get the tree cut down, so we're
Yeah.
reducing the boxes, the plastic, the turnings.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty impactful work that I've been doing, and I'm kind of enjoying it, loving it, dreaming, sleeping warehouses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like join us. Like welcome.
yeah.
Welcome. That's how I am too. Now, Dibesh, I checked out your LinkedIn page,
Hmm.
and at the top it says that you're in love with cartonization, or did it
Oh
say
yeah,
you love cartonization? You
I
love
lo-
cartonization.
I love I love cartoonization, and I'm so
Yeah, but
happy
like
I decided to join this company. I mean, it's so much satisfying, and I love it.
listen,
It's very
cartonization in this realm it is crucial though, right? It's king. But Thomas, I mean, do you hear that there are a lot of myths? Because between me and you, like I feel like there are many myths that go on in the warehousing industry that are just kind of commonly accepted and held. Like you should always try to maximize how much you fill up the box and before you ship it and the whole thing. So you just talk about kind of what cartonization is for people that don't know, and what are some of the myths that you've heard out there about it?
yeah. Um, so I'll start off with like it is an important um, aspect of warehousing. What you put in your boxes, and like when an order comes in. Maybe let's just define the word cartonization. For your listeners here, right? So cartonization refers to the problem involving an order that has a list of items. Those items have lengths, widths, and heights, and they have
Mhm.
weights. And then you have a set of boxes that those items can be placed into, right? Um,
Yeah.
that's that's the most vanilla version of the cartonization problem. You have items and you have boxes, and you're putting items in boxes, right? In a warehouse that has like a cheap version of a WMS, and they don't have any cartonization, the packer kind of like figures it out on their own,
Mhm.
and that's fine, right? Like, but eventually over time, if you're shipping tons and tons and tons of stuff, humans make mistakes. Humans are also lazy, and humans don't really care. what the perfect way to pack it. Sometimes they'll just do whatever is the easiest thing to do. So that's why you need some sort of a system to tell. Now, that's just the vanilla version of cartonization, right? What you as a business owner are also interested in, when someone's putting items in boxes on your behalf, right? Is, okay, how much is that box gonna cost after it's packed, right? And another thing you might be interested as a business owner is like, okay, is the person that's packing it, is he breaking some sort of a federal regulation by shipping the box as it is? Did he forget to put a label on the box because it has hazardous materials, for example, right? And so it's once you start adding these dimensions to the problem, it's not just 3D Tetris, but it's also 3D Tetris, but you need to kind of also keep in mind which items are hazardous, which are not, which items are fragile, which are not. Can certain do certain items nest into each other? If you're shipping, I don't know, a basketball and a trash can, right? Maybe the basketball fits in the trash can or whatever, right? Because it's hollow, right? That's another tricky thing. The computational complexity skyrockets, right? And also these things change over time. So it's not just about putting items in boxes, right? And but it's keeping track of all these configurations in a scalable way, and then crunching the numbers as fast as possible, again, in a scalable way. And that's hard, and that's what we do really well. So if you have a warehouse, hit us up. And anyway, regarding our promo, Dibyesh, you want to talk about the myths?
Yeah, there are different myths. Like most of the time, they when we talk about, hey, we have this cartoonization thing, they say, oh, we have a system that helps to do a cartoonization thing, but their cartoonization thing, especially that comes with the WMS thing, they're only very much concerned about reduce the fuel rate, but that's not only the thing. Apart from the fuel rate, there, as you said, um, the dangerous good, tagging dangerous good things, and making sure that the shipment that you ship is comparatively cheaper. So those kind of things we try to educate. Sometimes it's pretty hard, but yeah, we're trying pretty good. uh, it's been a while we've been working on that, and slowly people are getting aware of the cartoonization. And for us, we just not do a cartoonization, we do a price aware cartoonization. We do a cartoonization that is a route aware cartoonization. So it's a different level. As um, Thomas always say, our cartoonization, we are a steroid on the cartoonization thing. So it's a different, and it's good, and it saves a lot of money.
Yeah. Now, go ahead, Thomas.
No, I just wanted the archetypal myth that I think you pointed out at the beginning too was, if you can reduce the number of boxes, the number of cartons, then that's good for the environment, and it's also cheap, right? And it turns out, in the small parcel space, that generally holds true. Shipping 2 1-pound boxes versus 1 2-pound box, it's always going to be cheaper to ship 1 2-pound box, right?
Yeah.
But once you get to bigger parcels, right, it starts to get very interesting, right? If you're shipping 40 pounds worth of stuff, right, and let's say it neatly fits, fill rate 98%, it fits into a 12 by 12 by 12 box. Chances are, it's cheaper to split it into 2 smaller boxes. And let's say those 2 boxes aren't even fully, the fill rate's maybe 80% of those smaller boxes. It's still cheaper. significantly because
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it's easier for the carrier to handle. And so they price it cheaper. There's all these like the dim weights, right? Like if you're shipping light but big boxes, the carriers, they take their money back. So yeah. If you're just looking at like the 3 Tetris aspect, which some of our competitors do, you're like really missing this whole like maybe it makes sense to split boxes into smaller ones to save money. Maybe sometimes it makes sense to consolidate, right? Sometimes once you get to pallets, it gets even more interesting, right? Like shipping one big and tall pallet versus 2 smaller pallets. Again, sometimes one is cheaper, sometimes it's not. It really depends on also how you build the pallet. It's infinitely interesting.
Yeah, and I think too, and you have probably seen this, the more and more warehouses and DCs that you go into, that it's there's a lot of pressure, I think, on ops leaders out there to pick, right? Because they don't know how many orders are going to come into the system, and the orders come in, and then they got to figure out how to divvy them out and print them if they're using paper picking, and then pass them out. So all the stress and the pressure is like getting them picked. And there's all sorts of technology out there and software that can help pick, but in a lot of cases, you start to see this feeling that when everything makes its way to the pack station, I sort of like relax a little bit, right? Like I got everything picked, everything came out, and now I take my foot off the gas a little bit at pack. But as we've already seen, like pack is very complicated and very complex. And so are you seeing out there in the industry where all the emphasis is on pick, but customers are not really understanding how much money they're losing at pack because they're not doing cartonization well, or they're trying to do it manually? I would think that you would see that a lot. Is that true? Are you seeing out there in the industry?
I have definitely like cartonization or just in general optimization of the pack out process has always, people are always like, yeah, we know it's a problem, but like it's never like at the top of the to-do list. Like if you're a 3PL, especially if you're like a smaller 3PL, all you care about is like getting more brands in your warehouse. Sell, right? And I get it, right? And so then, especially because for these 3PLs, right, like it doesn't really make sense to like really optimize the operations until you have revenue at a certain level, right? Your time is just better spent growing the revenue than like optimizing small revenue, right? So that's one thing, and that has been like something that I've struggled with the most, especially earlier, 2024, that was just like a lot of like banging my head against the wall, where it's way less about like competition. We're not the first guys in the world who use math to like pack boxes, right? But like the biggest competitor to us is like the customer's sort of ignorance, right? They're like, they're like, yeah, like my WMS my WMS tells me I have a cartonization solution, so like I'm good. But like, there's cartonization and then there's cartonization, like, but it's hard to like explain it to people, right? Especially if their main focus is on like getting more brands into the warehouse. The people that tend to listen to it more is like these like the people who care about this the most, I found, are brands who run their own warehouse, right?
Yeah.
Or wholesalers who own the inventory. Generally the people who own the operations vertically, right? Those are the people who care the most. And the reason is whatever dollar Perseuss can save them goes straight into their EBITDA.
Right back.
Right?
That's right.
Right.
And for a 3PL, often, again, the smaller ones especially, if they don't, sometimes half of their customers are using their own rates, right? Because they have better rates than the 3PL. So then Perseuss doesn't even really save them money, right? It saves money Perseuss is going to save money mainly for the person who owns the contract, right, with the carrier.
Yeah.
And so if it's like a $1 billion brand with a distribution center in the middle of the country, now they own everything, every improvement they own, right? But if you're like a smaller 3PL and your customers are on their own contracts, you're taking a risk of implementing something and the benefit is not really accrued to you. Some 3PLs have some more open-minded 3PLs have realized that they can use Perseuss to like make their bids look better when they're bidding for business. And
I see.
And so then that is a that has been like a sales sort of trick that we've discovered recently. So let's see. But yeah, long story short, like the smaller 3PLs, like discartonization is never going to be at the top of their priority list. For them, it's always going to be let's get more brands in the warehouse.
Yeah, and I think too, and I've kind of talked about this before, where you have these businesses, and in the beginning, it is all about sales, marketing, and operation, and then they have to have a warehouse as part of that. But the emphasis goes in sales and marketing in the beginning, and then later, as they begin to scale, they realize that, wow, I really need to start making some investments and beef up my distribution capability, my warehouse, like with technology and all these things, because now I'm operating at scale. And the higher at scale I go, the more money I'm starting to lose, or the more I'm leaving on the table. Yep. So I think you're right on to something like that, where, hey, this is a perfect solution for somebody that is kind of entering that climb, to go, hey, this is a program. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to kind of manage it. You don't really have to train your employees. Like, it's just there. It's just working for you behind the scenes. And that you are going to be able to take advantage of this and have confidence that it's controlled, right? That there's a guardrail around it. So let me ask you this question. So in the warehousing world, in this space, there's always two big software players. It's the WMS, the warehouse management system, and the TMS, the transportation management system. So is Perseuss, are you bolting on to a WMS? Is there an integration there? Are you standalone? Like, how does that look like for your customers out there? And then how much of a IT lift or IT support is required for customers to kind of use and maintain Perseuss?
It's a very good question. So I'll start off by saying we focus on cartonization only. We don't want to be a WMS, even though it's tempting. And our customers are like, hey, can you do this too? Hey, can you do this too?
Sure. Creep.
Yeah.
Scope creep. Yeah.
So it's like literally every trade show I bump into like 5 young kids who are like, hey, I'm building my new WMS. Like, do you want it? So like, we're not doing it. So just making it very clear, right? Like, and but also, so what we realized is, like, we're not going to be like a again, we're not going to be a WMS, but we need some sort of an IT infrastructure to run on top of, right? Like, if you have a warehouse and you're fulfilling, orders are coming into a Shopify account, and you're like printing the pick list and picking on pen and paper, we're probably not going to be able to help you, right? Because like, there's some other things you need to fix first before we really, like, before there's any ROI on that, right? And so at least the first thing that we need is like weights and dimensions of your items, right? And weights and dimensions and costs of your boxes, right? And generally these things live in a WMS or an ERP, depending on who you're talking to. The enterprise level, they call it ERP. Um, but or like on like the in on an enterprise level, WMS is like a submodule of their ERP, or
Right.
but so we like when people already have a WMS. We love when people have their dimensional data, even if it's not perfect. It gets better over time as people use Perseuss. So with WMSs, there's neutral WMSs, and then there's friendly WMSs, and then a neutral WMS, which by now is pretty much everyone, is they have some open APIs. That means whenever a customer wants to work with Perseuss, they create us a login for their WMS, and then we plug in to those APIs to make sure Perseuss works for their operation. Now,
Gotcha.
We have most of those integrations already built out with the main WMS providers. So it's a pretty easy lift to work with these like neutral WMSs that already have open APIs. And it's even easier if we already have an existing integration, which is with most of them, right? Now, then there is a family. It's now still pretty small, but increasing family of what I call friendly WMSs, which is WMSs who figured out, okay, cool. Even though I have a cartonization module in my WMS, like this Perseuss thing is a whole nother level. All right, like it's this cartonization. It's a very deep rabbit hole. Like we don't want to build this module. Like there's no way we're gonna build this module ourselves as good as. So let's just partner with guys like Perseuss, and let's offer it as part of like a bundle, and then there's actually like a direct integration. Let's sort of like Perseuss APIs are embedded in that friendly WMS, and then those deployments are like the customer doesn't even. Sometimes the customer, we have this with one WMS, like the customer doesn't even know he's interacting with us. White labeled it, and the WMS makes the decisions about the WMS. The order drops into the WMS. The WMS sends it to us. We crunch numbers, return the item placement, and then the WMS communicates it to the packer. And there's no change of interface, no clicking in between screens and everything. So those are the friendly ones. That's the easiest lift.
Right.
Well, let me ask this. So, speak as Perseuss operationally wise. If I'm an ops manager out there, like we already talked about, like when it comes to software, I'm interested in things that are going to be, fast, efficient, that are going to work, right? So much less interested in kind of just the design and the functionality and everything, and more so about that because I'm under pressure. I've got orders that have got to go out, and I've got customers that are waiting. Yes, I also want to save money, but I really want it to kind of be fast and user friendly. So what about that with Perseuss? I mean, can you speak to kind of the speed of it for the operator and kind of the user friendliness of it, if that's a word, and kind of what's the feedback been from packers and floor managers out there that have used it?
You want me? Okay. I think the best part of Perseuss is we have brought like a gamification environment in the warehouse. So packer, when the packer gets all the stuff packed in their table, they just have to scan things, and we have our own put to light hardware that we have developed, which is comparatively very economical. It's better. It doesn't just go. There's no much maintenance and all. So we have a whole gamified whole experience. So whenever pickers pick the things, bring into the table, they just have to scan the SKUs. As they scan it, it will put to like guide packers to where to put in, so they don't have to put their brain like, hey, this is the dangerous good, it should, where should I put it, like whether it should go with the other stuff or not. So those kind of things, they don't have to think. And there are different business constraints, like for example, there's a fragile thing. I mean, previously, before Perseuss, they have to be aware, like, how much they have to stack, how much they have to put in. So those kind of things we have eliminated with the Perseuss. It's more like a gamification. You scan the things that puts to like guide you through, you just put it over there. And we have seen almost 25% increase in the efficiency, especially for
Great.
a couple of big customers that we're working. So we definitely bring a lot of efficiency. And since we have gamified the whole experience, people
Yeah.
love it. And then there's a lead board kind of things where you can where they can see their efficiency, like who's doing, how much money they're saving. So it's kind of fun, and,
Oh,
and at the end of the day,
very
when
cool.
packers go back home, they have a satisfaction. Okay, I've done this, I've accomplished this, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
The packers love it.
Yeah. Now, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that, is that this is a very valid question. It is something that we didn't know going into this. Before I landed the first big contract for this, I knew we were going to save money on shipping, right? But the question was, the owner of the business, he understood the math very well, very smart guy. He the ROI, he was sold very quickly. But his question was like, okay, are you going to slow my packing? Because
Yep.
okay, I understand how you're saving the money, but you're essentially introducing a step into the workflow.
Yep.
Because before, the packer essentially just sort of like he winged it, and it was cost inefficient shipping wise, but he was pretty fast at winging it. You know what I mean? It didn't really matter
Yep.
where he put the thing. As long as he scanned it, it was good. Whereas now he's like sorting it, right? And so that was an interesting question, and he was absolutely right. And I didn't have an answer at the time, but luckily the ROI was so big that they wanted it anyways with this question mark. Luckily, and we observed this very deeply, right? Like we launched it, and especially this is the customer with the put to light. We monitored every scan, right? We recorded every scan that happened, and yeah, we compared the scans of the person scanning on the Perseuss packing station versus the station that had only the vanilla WMS, right? And yeah, for that customer, it was on average 24% faster, and especially, and it's sort of like normalized the curve too.
Yeah.
Like when you looked at the average, when you looked at the vanilla WMS experience, you had the packers that were like really, really, really fast, right? And then you have a lot of packers who were like very slow, and then you have someone in between. And with the Perseuss app, once we launched it, you've seen the faster guys slowed down a little bit, because now they kind of like, they're not as flexible anymore. They kind of need to follow the process a little bit more rigidly, but it helped the slower people get faster. And on average, it moved the curve up on average.
I understand. I get it. Yeah.
That was really interesting. And then like we analyzed the process, and what we figured out is that we added in a step, but we removed a step too. The step was the packer looking at it and thinking,
where to pack.
Yeah.
Oh. And then grabbing a box and being like, oh, yeah, it's not gonna fit, and then grabbing a box, putting everything in the box, and then realizing there's a leftover, and then the packer thinking, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna repack it, or you know what, I'm just gonna close this one, and then I'm gonna add this one. You know what I mean? So that a lot of these things are these like these exception handling really got filtered out way more. So that's where we kind of gained some of the time.
And people sometimes, I've heard this from people sometimes when they'll say, well, what was the Packer thinking when they did this? How could they? And I'm like, look, I don't want to say that we don't want them to think, but you got to remember, I mean, these people are working at a station for 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day.
Right.
And they're packing just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of orders, right? And it's over and it's all hot. And so it's like, yeah, if they were only packing your order, if that was the only thing they had to do that day, sure, they could take the time and figure it out and look, but they're not, right? They're packing hundreds of customer orders. And so then, like you were saying, Thomas, I think the net is going to be slower when you factor everything, or sorry, the net's going to be faster when you factor everything into place when it comes to that. And I think that owner, he knows that he has to be able to sell this to his employees and show them, because after you go away and you're gone and it's just them there, they're either going to say we love this or we don't like this, because and so he's got to be able to kind of educate and talk them through and show them the math and everything, and how at the end of the day it really will benefit them, because sometimes warehouse packers are a tough customer. Right? Like they can be harder to bring to your side than the owner maybe.
That's that actually brings us to another point that fits into this perfectly, which is gamification, and Dibyesh already touched on this. But gamification wasn't something I designed, right? Like me, I'm a math geek, and when I went into this, I thought, I'm just going to focus on my algo. I'm going to make the best algo in the world, right? And cool. And I developed, a pretty good algo. It's not the best yet. We're getting there, right? But something something that I learned very quickly, right, is because I developed this really good algo, right? And then I wrapped it with this like very crappy user interface, right? And I was like, guys, I'm ready. Like, let's start testing it. And then I showed it to the Packer, and the Packer's like, what? It's telling me to what? Like, hey, like this number doesn't make sense. I can't see what? And I was like, oh, like actually, I can have the best algorithm in the world, but if the algorithm doesn't interpret the instructions, doesn't convey the instructions to the Packer in a way that the Packer understands and is able to perform those instructions smoothly and seamlessly and easily over and over and over and over again, it's not going to save any money. It's probably going to make it slower, and it's going to make them make mistakes.
Here's what will happen too: is you have the best program in the world, and you present it to the owner, and the owner could come and go, "We're not going to do it." And you're like, "Well, what? Why not? You're going to get all these savings." Like, "Well, I don't want to be murdered by my 10 Packers, by my 10 employees that are out here, and they're not into it, right? They don't like it." So you're totally right. In the warehousing world, if you can get them a buy-in and understand kind of what goes through their brain and what they like and how to get that logic, just I think that's a much easier sell, I think, in the long run. So you're right. I'm not surprised that you experienced that and figured that out very early in the process.
Yeah, once we added, so, and we say like gamification, and it's like, I mean, it's pretty cool. I think for warehouse tech, it's pretty cool, but it's like, like some of like the Silicon Valley based, gamification apps, like we're not at that level yet. But what I'm trying to say is that like,
doesn't take much though.
we need to gamify it just a little bit. Like the warehouses, the people who work in a warehouse, they interact with like very crappy technology all the time, right? And another thing I learned, right, by just kind of like hanging out in the warehouse a lot, like talking with the Packers on lunch breaks, right, I realized a lot of these people are young men who play a lot of video games in their free time, right?
Yep.
And they love to talk about their characters. They love to talk about the stats of their characters. And I was like, oh my goodness, the stats, right?
Yeah.
And then we just added these stats and like track the stats over time. And suddenly they're all like, now they're talking about like the app on the lunch break. It's like, oh my God, like I packed XYZ. Did you see? And like,
I'm a hero. I'm a hero to them now.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, the leaderboard, right? Like there's a few guys who like check the stats all the time. And if like, and what happens like when like the data job crashes and the stats are not updated for like one day, the main guy is like, hey, what? He's like slacking me. Hey, like my stats are not updated. It's really
so what about the dashboard though? I mean, we got into this a little bit with kind of the stats and the gamification, but is there that type functionality? I mean, like the employees on the floor, they like to see the numbers, and so does the owners. Owners love dashboards so that they can quickly see that, hey, we are making impact. There is an ROI here. Talk to us about kind of the dashboard part of Perseuss.
Dibyesh, you want to take it?
Yeah, I can take it. I think that, I mean, we all, Perseuss is all about creating the impact, right? So from the very first, as soon as we hit the, the purchase order that comes to us, right? We start crunching the numbers. The first thing is the first impact that you see is you have a comparison of the price versus like baseline versus the price that Perseuss has actually suggested, like, how we cut the cost, what was the best way to do the packing and all. So from the very first touch point we start creating the impact, right? So that is impact created at the packer level, and for the managers level, they can see the entire things in real time, like how much money they are saving, how much they used to pay versus how much money they are saving. It's a pretty real time, pretty quick, and then they can also see which packer is doing what kind of job, like how efficiently they are packing things, and who's the best packers who are handling dangerous good that has many things in a proper way. If there's some mistakes, our system catches. So that way, it has a impact from very beginning. It has an impact for every kind of users, from the packers, for the managers. They can see. It's a full transparency that we bring in our system.
Yeah, I think in today's day and age, like that, I mean, it's great to have a good interface and good functionality, but I mean, dashboards are going to rule the day because everybody's got investors that they have to be reporting to, or they have, if private equity is just there's lots of hands in the pot, and everybody wants to see, right? They want to see what is the benefit, what is the gain, not just hear about it, right? Not just anecdotally, but see. So I think, to have a good dashboard, like it sounds that you do, is really a kind of not only just competitive advantage, but almost like a must have, I think, in today's market, in today's 100%. World, for those reasons.
100%. And it's, we have like a savings report that we generate once a month, and we send it to the COOs/CEOs, whoever was like the point of contact when we were brought in, so that they can see, what's the ROI on their investment, right?
Yeah.
And generally it's been, I mean, the way we roll, right, especially for these like smaller deployments with the friendly WMSs, we can do free trials, right? Hey, like,
oh, very cool.
Hey, just click in your WMS, enable Perseuss, and there's no change in the UI of the WMS, and just the packer now suddenly, instead of grabbing a box and then inputting a box manually themselves and then scanning into that box, the WMS selects a box dynamically, and then it tells you which item goes into which box. and that's that's the only change that the packer sees with these friendly WMSs. And in the back end, Perseuss, right? The Perseuss API is interacting with the WMS, but the packer doesn't know, right? And then and then they can see, right? Like if they can try it out, and if it makes sense, if their shipping bill is reduced, like they don't turn off the free trial once
Right.
they see the impact on the shipping bill. Also, generally for like the bigger deployments, even before we do anything, right?
Right.
We also understand that we're injecting ourselves. Perseuss is injecting itself essentially in a very sensitive part of a very sensitive workflow. This packing. Like every time you introduce a process change, you're complicating the life's packer, whatever, and you multiply it by, I don't know, 50, 100 packers. That's a lot. That's a lot of wasted effort. Could be, right? And so you don't want to be introducing this unless you really, really, really know that you're going to save a lot of money. And so and to really, really know this, we work with the potential client. We pull in data from their WMS, so we know what they've been doing before. We run it through our simulator, and then we present to them a very detailed report. We do this. This is completely free for anyone interested, anyone who has a warehouse and wants to see if Perseuss can save them money. They send us a CSV. We crunch numbers. This process is more and more automated. It's going to be self-service pretty soon. And people can just, people are just going to be able to send in their CSV and then see, okay, how much is Perseuss going to save me? Where exactly? On which orders? What type of orders am I like paying unnecessarily more? Right now, you still need to like email me the CSV and then I'll do it. But soon you'll just upload it to a portal and you'll see it.
Yeah, and just to add, like talking about the impact. So impact is something that we start creating even before we actually onboard the customers. So our whole business model is defined on the impact, right? So how much money we're going to save, that much money we're going to make. So we are very clear on that.
Yeah. Now, and I know that it's not just Perseuss, right? Like I know, and I've heard and I've seen that you've developed some partnerships out there. I mean, there's it sounds like there's some alignment with other companies and other organizations. Can you talk just a little bit about that? I mean, I know the show's about Perseuss and we're not here to give any free plugs to anybody else, but that's okay. Right. If you've got partners you want to talk about, but
yeah. So I personally believe, like both me and we are very customer obsessed. We have that mindset, right? We wanted to go above and beyond to add values to our customers. And for me, like more than partnership, we believe in partnering, right? Partnering is a collective intent. We come together, we co-create something that's gonna value, of course, to each other, but at the same time, most to our customers. So we try to align with the partners who is going to, with whom we can co-create the value to the customer. So we're very peculiar about it. Like we don't just go and do a partnership unless it's aligned to the value, to the goal that we wanted to achieve. And end of the day, how much we're going to bring ROI to the customer. So that also we wanted to see. So we're very peculiar about that. And when we say partnership, it's more about the partnering thing. So and we've been talking with a lot of like-minded companies, and we have recently created quite a good partnership, and we're pretty open.
So just to piggyback on that, there's two types of partners. There's like the referral type partnerships, where it's like it's a company that it's a supply chain tech company. They're like selling stuff to the same people. So it's like you refer me business, I refer you business, and that's been that's been great, right? Like so couple, like I don't know if you had the guys from Rocket Fuel on your show yet? Do you know them? them, Rocket Fuel. So
Oh, you should bring them. Yeah.
that should be our next.
Yeah.
A very cool group of guys. So they do billing for
Very cool.
3PLs, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna sell them. I'm gonna sell them too on your show. So essentially, if you're a
Okay.
3PL, you're running and you own your carrier contract, you're running a deficit, right? Like the brand pays you like net 45 or whatever, right? And then, but your carrier charges you immediately, right? So then there's this window of window of time where you essentially your capital is on the hook. And then if the brand goes bankrupt or just decides to not pay you because for whatever reason you're on the hook, you're essentially a bank, an interest-free bank for your customers. A lot of 3PLs in this situation, these guys solve it, right? They have like this whole like net metering program, right? Where you essentially charge the credit card of the brand upfront, and then they kind of like every operation they deduct, and then it charges it again. And so it's super cool. And with a company like that, it's a very complementary offering, like they sell, they help with the cash flow problem. And then we help with making sure there's more cash than there was before, right? Because we save them money, right? So then we're able, as we're speaking to 3PLs, we're looking at their data. It's very easy for us to like ask them, okay, we know how FedEx bills you. Like, how is your brand billing you? How are you billing your brand? And then if we notice that there's the gap, the question is, are you like cool with that? The answer is almost always no. And then they're like, all right, yeah, you should like talk to my guys from Rocket Fuel, right? And on the other hand, they go sell Rocket Fuel, right? Now, once they're in, they also know, how they're billing, right? Because they charge for every operation. It's very easy for them to then be like, hey, like we've noticed, you charge, these are all the packing operations you're doing, you're shipping tens of thousands of packages a month, right? Like, are you optimizing that? Do you think you're leaving money on the table? The answer is usually yes, I am, but I don't know how to fix it. So then they can like be like, well, we don't have these guys, Perseuss, la la la. And so that's good. That's been doing very well. So Rocket Fuel, get them on here.
Cool.
And that's cool. These like cross referrals are great.
Yeah.
The better ones, those are the ones that we're like really, really excited about, are when it's a tech company and a tech company, and our solutions just very naturally blend into each other. And there's like an opportunity for like a bundled experience, some sort of a joint software offering where, where the user doesn't even know that they're, for example, interacting with Perseuss, right? But they are, right? This Perseuss is like hidden, but makes it kind of work on the back end. And these partners, generally it's WMSs.
Yeah.
But then there's a couple of other like warehouse optimization companies that solve a particular problem in like a picking area. We have a company, we have like a really, really tight partnership on like picking, right? So they're using Perseuss on the back end for a couple of their clients now, and it's really cool. Think about it. They have a voice picking technology. All right,
that's cool. Yeah.
Their robot is telling the picker, hey, go to aisle XYZ and grab an item ABC, right? Now, what Perseuss allows their customers to do now is, instead of picking to a cart and then packing the cart at the pack station, they can pick directly into a carton.
Right into it.
And because Perseuss know what the cartons should be, what are the optimal cartons. And so right now, it's this very seamless integration where the person grabs the voice picking headset, They already know, they're already used to working with the voice picking system. And now the only process change is that at the beginning, the voice picker tells them, okay, put carton, put a 12 cube out slot 1, put a 40F at a slot 2, put a 12-12-6 on slot 3, and go to aisle ABC, da 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 da. And the voice picking robot knows this because Perseuss told it to.
Yeah.
Right.
The person doesn't
Beautiful.
know that Perseuss did it, but Perseuss did, right? And so
Beautiful.
those are the partnerships that I'm very, very, very excited about. And we have a couple of those going on right now. They always take, these like lead referrals. Those are very easy to establish. Like once we meet someone and like the vibes are good, like we like immediately like, sign symmetrical referral agreements, and then we pass business back and forth. But these like tech partnerships, those like you really need to like nurture that relationship,
develop them,
and because it's an investment from both companies need to invest the most precious resource, engineering time, to something that's new, right? And that always takes time convincing, especially with bigger companies. But once you're in, man, it's really cool what you can do.
Love
and
it.
you see the real-time impact happening, in front of you. That's the coolest thing about that.
Yeah. Well, so for Perseuss though, I mean, you guys are beating the street. I mean, like I said in the intro, you're on LinkedIn, you're at the shows. So where can people find out more about you, and what are some exciting things that you have on the horizon in 2025 and beyond?
So my LinkedIn, Thomas David Yee, or you can email me, tom@getperseuss.com. You can also check out our website, getperseuss.com. We have some cool videos there about our tech. We're hustlers. I mean, it's the only way to this is a hard industry. Sales cycles are slow, and the relationships matter. And the only way to make friends is to get out there, and speak to people.
Right.
And so we're doing that. We found LinkedIn has been a really good channel for us. And so we're instead of like running 15 channels in parallel, we're like really focusing our resources on this one channel and making it work big time. And so far it's been paying off very well. What we're excited about in 2025 is we have some really big customers that we're pilots with. And
congrats.
And that's going to push us to a whole new level. 2024 most of 2024 was just kind of me hacking at stuff, right? Early 2025 was a lot about like establishing, the processes, especially for the outbound. But I feel like now the engine is kind of running and humming reasonably well, but there's these like big pilots that are happening that are going to take us to the next level, and we still don't really know what that next level looks like, but we're excited.
We just keep pushing ourselves.
Figure it out as you go, right? I mean, that's you get the snowball rolling, and you never know how big it could get. So, well, cool. Well, thanks.
What are you excited about?
You guys have been. Say again.
What are you excited about in 2025?
Watching Perseuss grow, right? Watching Perseuss. No, but seriously, guys, thank you very much for kind of coming on the podcast. I think this has been a great show, very informative. Lots of good stuff out there, and I wish both of you the best of luck for Perseuss now and in the future. And I think it's a great idea and a great product, and I hope that a lot of users out there can really really benefit from what you can provide. So thank you again, and best of luck to both of you as you go. I'm happy to know both of you, and excited to see the growth. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We just enjoyed.
Yeah, you got it, guys. I'm sure I'll see you around on LinkedIn, on the LinkedIn
Oh
streets.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
yeah. We're gonna be
All right,
all
guys,
the
take
time
care.
there.
That's
All
our
right.
hood, man.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, that concludes today's show. Like Tomas and Dibyesh said, check them out. Check them out on LinkedIn. Check them out online. Check them out in the shows. Know them, get to meet them, see what they can do for you, because I think there's a lot of good benefits from Perseuss for operators out there. So with that, I always say at the Warehouse Underground, please join up at the community. You get into the message boards. There's tons of great content in there and information sharing and network. There's over 100 members that are in there now, and please join more. And with that, I will see you next week at the next podcast, episode number 13. Thanks, guys. Take care.